Welcome to another episode of Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Crayden. Thank you for joining me on this Saturday, August 18th. Is it really August 18th? Yeah, let me. Is it really? No, 17th, excuse me. Running ahead of myself. I got some incredible news here in terms of what's happening with this next pandemic. Now, this is incredible, and this has been completely underreported and unreported in Canada. So just stay tuned. We have really got a bombshell. So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need to resolve to resist. Yes, as Sasha the cat always said, please smash that like button. Tell your friends and family about this broadcast so YouTube can't suppress it and essentially censor it like they did yesterday to my interview with Camille El-Sheikh because they don't want to talk about gender ideology. Thank you for those who did watch it. If you haven't watched yesterday's interview, please put it on. It's worth watching. It is one of the biggest issues facing Canadians today, and I think we need to talk about it. Gender ideology, you bet. And there's another million-person march scheduled for September 20th. But I'm not here today to talk about that. I want to remind you about it later at the end of the show. I'll remind you about that march that's coming up. Do you remember this?
When did you and your government start to become so afraid of your own citizens?
Yeah, that was at the Emergencies Act inquiry. All about why Trudeau called the Emergencies Act to suppress the Freedom Convoy. And I tell you, it goes deeper than that. And before he decided to suppress the Freedom Convoy, he decided to lock down Canadians with COVID-19 mandates. They were very effective for Justin Trudeau to retain power, not only as Prime Minister, but have an iron grip on the public, what they could say or do. The censorship surrounding COVID persists to this day. Now, if I want to describe the COVID vaccine, I'll say it was a safe and effective vaccine. We all know that, don't we? But of course, we're allowed to question that, aren't we? So what has Justin Trudeau, what has the government been up to? I keep telling you he's going to use a crisis. Never let a crisis go to waste. That's the woke philosophy. He's going to use another crisis to try to retain his grip on power and possibly even to avoid a 2025 election. How's he going to do that? Well, you've already seen stories like this, haven't you? Urgent warning about return of dormant killer diseases as vaccination fatigue takes hold during perfect storm of sickness. Yes, we mustn't have vaccination fatigue. What has Justin Trudeau been up to? Here, it's all in this. Flu and infectious disease outbreaks business continuity plan. I'm going to read portions of this for you because it's absolutely fascinating. This is from the Center for Occupational Health and Safety. This is the second edition of its report. Came out in June. Nobody noticed it. Nobody noticed this report coming out in June. Actually, I have to congratulate the Daily Mail for noting that this report came out in a story last week. That's quite interesting because what this business continuity plan is all about, what to do when the next hypothetical virus breaks out. Now, what do you think that's going? What do you think that means? A hypothetical virus? Well, it's going to be worse than COVID. It's going to be lockdowns, and we know how Justin Trudeau restricted your life through COVID mandates during the last pandemic. People could not travel, go to restaurants, or in many cases even work. without being vaccinated. These mandates were challenged by the massive Freedom Convoy protest. Thank God for those truckers and the other people who protested, because that was the beginning of the end of Trudeau's mandates. But you don't believe for a minute he doesn't want to bring those back. Because this guide states that based on trends from past pandemic flus, there may be a higher average number of illness and deaths in age group different than what we typically see during annual flu season. The handbook suggests that companies need to prepare for employees working from home. If there is a pandemic, how many people will be off work? It is impossible to determine with certainty. Estimates vary because no one will know for sure how ill the new virus will make people. What new virus is he talking about? How fast it will spread? Or how many people will not go to work until it happens? The hypothetical pandemic can be expected to come in 2 or 3 waves, about 3 to 9 months separating each outbreak for about 2 years. So they've got this all plotted out. For a hypothetical virus, they've already got this figured out. It's going to last for about 2 years. When will that take us to? Past the next general election, past the next federal election. The report predicts problems in the supply chain, telecommunications, and banking while expecting scarcity of water, gasoline, medicine, and food. This is all in this document. Now, this is all in this is from a government agency called the Center for Occupational Health and Safety. Have you ever heard of it? Well, I knew they had like an occupational safety division, but I thought it was part of Health Canada. This apparently isn't. It's related to Service Canada, but this seems to be a little group existing and funding, getting funding on all of its own. So they are predicting this is the key word here, expected to come in 2 or 3 waves, about 3 to 9 months separating each outbreak, and it's going to last for 2 years. This is frightening. Now, as the Daily Mail pointed out, and as I point out in my article in the Post Millennial, which is coming up today, this is all coming out at the same time that, you remember Anthony Fauci? He was the COVID-19 guru in the United States, former head of the National Institutes of Health, the NIH in the States. Now he's telling people they should be wearing masks again because of COVID. Another COVID outbreak is on the way. He's denied having anything to do with school closures. And even though he's admitted he just had his 3rd bout, Anthony Fauci just suffered from COVID-19 for the 3rd time, even though he's had, now get this, he's been vaxxed and boosted with this safe and effective COVID vaccine on 6 occasions. He's had 6 vaxes, and yet he's had 3 bouts of COVID. Now you do the arithmetic. Does that make sense to you? So how effective is it? I'll leave that to you. But what's extremely frightening right now is, where do you think this is going? Do you think there's another pandemic in the offing? Oh, you betcha. You betcha. And we're going to be hearing from this. Remember the World Health Organization Director General, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus? This is the guy from Ethiopia who, of course, is not a medical doctor. He calls himself a doctor. He's not a medical doctor. He has a PhD. I don't know where he got his PhD. But, of course, he was China's pick to be the Director General of the World Health Organization. Why do you think he was China's pick to be the Director General of the World Health Organization? Because he was very adept at mouthing the Chinese talking points about COVID. Did it come from a Chinese lab in Wuhan? Of course not. Absolutely no evidence for that, he said, even though the evidence is overwhelming now that the COVID-19 occurred as a result of a lab break in the Wuhan Virology Institute in China. Donald Trump called it the Chinese virus. You remember that? And he was absolutely ridiculed and lambasted for being ethnocentric and racist by saying that. Even how absurd was that? Clearly, it did come from a Chinese lab. Right. But Tedros Ghebreyesus would never have admitted that. Oh, no. It had nothing to do with a lab break. It just sort of happened. So the good doctor is standing ready to go again for another pandemic. You'd never guess what it is. Let me read from this. This is from the WHO website, and I have a clip from Tedros in a second here. And it says, WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus has determined that the upsurge of monkeypox, and they don't even call it monkeypox now, it's Mpox, because it's slightly ridiculous to keep saying monkeypox. People laugh at it. But he's seen an upsurge in Mpox in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And a growing number of countries in Africa constitutes a public health emergency of international concern. That's PHEIC. PHEIC. It's pronounced fake. PHEIC equals FAKE. Fake equals fake. Public Health Emergency of International Concern. PHEIC spells fake. Under the International Health Regulations of 2005, the agency posted this on their website Wednesday. Let's hear from the good doctor here.
Reported in the Democratic Republic of the Congo for more than a decade.
No, let's get to the very beginning here, because he says Mpox at the very beginning.
Mpox has been reported in the Democratic Republic of the Congo for more than a decade, and the number of cases reported each year has increased steadily over that period. Last year, reported cases increased significantly, and already the number of cases reported so far this year has exceeded last year's total, with more than 14,000 cases and 524 deaths. Today, the emergency committee met and advised me that, in its view, the situation constitutes a public health emergency of international concern. I have accepted that advice. The detection and rapid spread of a new clade of Mpox in eastern DRC, its detection in neighboring countries that had not previously reported Mpox, and the potential for further spread within Africa and beyond is very worrying. In addition to other outbreaks of other clades of Mpox in other parts of Africa, it's clear that a coordinated international response is essential to stop these outbreaks and save lives.
So as he repeats again, this is a public international emergency. How do you get Mpox? How do you get monkeypox? Well, largely through male same-sex sexual activity. I'll phrase it that way. Now, if you're not particularly likely to be engaging in that sort of activity, you're not likely to be getting monkeypox. This is sort of like telling people that you had to put a mask on to avoid getting AIDS. And of course, in the 1980s, when AIDS first broke onto the scene, a lot of people did think it was in the air and that you could contract it virtually in any fashion. And it had nothing, they weren't aware that it had everything to do with an exchange of body fluids. I don't want to get into that too much because I might be demonetized for saying that. But clearly, monkeypox is a disease that everybody's not going to get, and putting a mask on isn't going to help you not get it. But you know what? They're already putting forth bids, asking for bids for a vaccine. And you know what? One already existed, but they want another one. Do you suppose it's because they want the new vaccine to be like the COVID vaccine with mRNA in it? Do you think that's a possibility? Do you think they want another round of this kind of vaccine? I'll say this kind. I have to be careful. But they're looking for a new vaccine for this old disease. He just admitted it's been in the Congo now for decades. It's unlikely you're going to get it, but they're going to tell you to mask up. They're going to tell you to keep your distance from people, all because of a disease you're very unlikely to get. It's not going to happen. Now, what have they been talking about up till now? Hitherto, you've heard all about bird flu, right? And they're talking about massacring chickens and farm animals because bird flu is rampant. Actually, it is completely fake. There's no need to kill off livestock because the animals are developing a natural immunity to it. And it's not going to affect humans. So that one sort of fizzled out, didn't it? Because we saw those headlines a month ago, 2 months ago. Bird flu on the horizon. 100 times more dangerous than COVID. Watch out, folks. It's coming again. Another pandemic on the horizon. Bird flu, bird flu, bird flu. The alarm bells went off. But it didn't seem to get the traction that the World Economic Forum and the globalists, Justin Trudeau, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Sir Keir Starmer, wanted it to have. So bird flu just didn't resonate with people. They said, come on, bird flu? Monkeypox? How many people are going to actually look up monkeypox to find out how you get it? How you're most likely to get it? They're going to see that the good Dr. Tedros is again going on the air saying, it's an international crisis, folks. It's going to be another global pandemic, and you're all at risk. And guess what? It's probably going to last 2 years. So I go back to how I started describing this hypothetical pandemic and this business continuity plan that the Trudeau government put out. It's all in there. This is going to last for 2 years. How much longer does Justin Trudeau have to survive until the next election? Well, just under 2 years, actually. It's about 1.5 years, a little less. This will give him lots of breathing space. Lots of breathing space to continue to harass you, to continue to institute lockdowns, new mandates, new vaccines, new ways to take your freedom away. And if we don't agree, he's got the mechanisms to take our freedom of speech away. And he's got the third part of his censorship trilogy, the Online Harms Act, ready to go. And watch him fast track that in the fall. It hasn't gone through second reading yet. Watch it go through second and third reading very fast with the help and support of the new Democratic Party that calls itself an opposition but is nothing more than a de facto support organization for the Justin Trudeau government. Watch what happens when the Online Harms Act is reintroduced, not reintroduced, when it comes up for second reading. It didn't get very far in the last session of Parliament. It will go fast now because Justin Trudeau wants that mechanism to shut down free speech during the next pandemic. Just like what they're doing in Great Britain right now during those riots. Anybody who disagrees with the government policy, who says that there's a two-tiered standard of justice, hauled off to jail. Hauled off to jail and told, you can't say that on the internet. That's a what? A Facebook crime? That's a social media offense? Yeah, it's coming in Canada too. That's why Justin Trudeau wants this, because he will find another reason invoke the pandemic. They said so in this occupational health and safety report that he hoped nobody would read except a few select businesses, corporations who subscribe to it, who are involved in the process. But it's gone much farther now. And we're going to make sure it goes much farther. We're going to talk about this, and the stories are out there. My story in the Post Millennial will be out today. The Daily Mail has reported on it, and other media outlets hopefully will pick this up as well to say, watch out, Justin Trudeau is planning another pandemic. It's in writing. It's in the report. Find the report yourself. I'll put the link in the description so you can look at this yourself and find out how ominous this is. This is what the Justin Trudeau government is up to right now. And I can't overemphasize how dangerous this is. And the timing coincides perfectly with Justin Trudeau's ability to preempt the next federal election in October 2025 because there's a crisis. We can't have an election right now. We're in the middle of another health crisis. Just wait and see what happens. Maybe we'll have an election soon. Maybe we'll do that in a couple of months. Maybe in a year. Don't for a minute think this authoritarian Trudeau government won't stoop that low, because it will, and it has already, in terms of just walking away from criminality, from absolute scandal, ignoring law and order, and knowing it's not going to be investigated or prosecuted because it's got the police in its pocket. So I'm glad I was able to share this with you today. I'm going to put the report in the description. It's incredibly important you have a look at this, because we are headed for more authoritarian government in this country. Just another reminder, don't miss the million-person march for parents, for children, on September 20th. Friday, September 20th, I will be there. I want to see you there too, fighting for children, fighting against gender ideology, and for freedom. And we can also continue to talk about how we're going to fight any more lockdowns in this country. Thank you for your time today. God bless you. I will be back tomorrow with all the news that you need to hear. God bless you so much, and we love you here.